I work at a recently built city parking garage and transit hub in Big City, Indiana, and late at night it is my job to lock everything up until the morning, as well as to patrol the dark building alone with just a radio linked to the local police department. It's a very simple procedure that takes maybe 10 minutes to lock up everything, with 15-minute walkthroughs every hour. At roughly 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm very tired from my 8-hour shift. With 4 more hours to go, I drag myself through the security center, which is fancy talk for a room with a chair and monitors, and begin my ascent through the ramps. I listen to my footsteps echo and realize it seemed quieter than usual. I could smell the typical putrid smell of the late-night city, of the fermenting feces in the trash can from the numerous homeless from the area. We had to lock down the public bathrooms to prevent damage, theft, vandalism, and most importantly, deaths from people overdosing in there in the middle of the night. I finally got to the top floor and summoned the elevator. I placed my forehead against the door, feeling the cold air rushing up through the elevator shaft as it reaches my floor with a satisfying ding. I stepped in, got to the ground floor, and continued back to the office. I fling the door open and head inside, running for the cold office room and using my magnet fob to unlock the door. The door usually gets hung up a little, so with a swift heel, I slam it shut and make my way to the desk. The computer that runs the camera system is worthy of being called ancient. I'm pretty sure they don't even make them anymore. And that's not to mention the internet the cameras run off of is so slow they take forever to update. So I sat there, watching myself walk around with a tremendous amount of lag time. I sat there, watching myself drudge on through the stupidly hot weather, and laughed to myself as I watched my head land against the cold steel of the top floor elevator. As the doors open and the light floods the area around me, my blood went cold. There was a man standing no more than 6 feet away, just staring at me. About 6'1" or so, nearly my height, and he had one of those gross, horribly unkempt beards, except it looked like he had tried to trim it in places. Either way, it was a hack job, and it only added to his disheveled and unsettling appearance. He had a red t-shirt with some print on the front that I couldn't distinguish, raggedy blue jeans with holes and stains, and a pair of what looked like hand-me-down work boots. I truly felt every bit of the phrase frozen with terror. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know whether to flee, keep watching the cameras, or turn all the lights on in the hub. As I entered the elevator in the footage, he headed for the stairs, already vaulting down the steps. My heart races as I watch each camera as he reaches each floor I'm on. The 4th floor, then the 3rd. Almost seamlessly, he's keeping perfect time with the elevator. My ears begin to boil as I feel all the blood rush to my head. I'm having a hard time breathing. I watch as the elevator doors close, and he begins following me again, getting closer and closer after each turn of the corner. I watch as I fling open the door and he catches it, heading in right behind me, my heart pounding in my eardrums. He's inside the building. I keep watching, knowing I should look away, but I can't. I can't find him. And then I see why. I had kicked the door shut in his face, which means, as I search the room, I eventually discover it's just me in there. I radio for a few officers to come in, and they sweep the building, give me a slap on the wrist for not paying attention, and left. Later, I talked to the owners, but they said there was no crime committed, and they don't want to release the videos to me. They said that since I had overlooked him entering the building, it didn't count as breaking and entering. $7.25 an hour is not enough for this. I'm working on my resignation tomorrow and a request for better equipment. If the latter fails, I'm definitely going to quit. The rest of the night this happened, I stayed in that room. I watched each camera diligently, but never saw him again. Now, every time I go to work, I can never shake the feeling that I'm being watched. A few summers ago, I worked at a mall in Toledo, Ohio. I was very concerned about money at the time, and I wanted to work as much as possible in order to save up for an apartment, my first major purchase. To do that, I took a job at the Great American Cookie Shop in the mall's food court, which has been around since before I was born. To get some more bang for my buck, I worked there at night. For those who don't know, a lot of bakeries and coffee shops will often hire a baker to come in the dead of night to make all of the pastries and treats for the morning. They'll come in around 3 a.m. and just bake for hours on end. That was exactly what I did. I pounded out cookie cakes and put cookies in the oven until the sun came up. It was actually really cozy and relaxing, between the heat from the oven, the silence of the mall, and the freedom to blast my music or podcasts as loud as I wanted. But it also put me on edge sometimes. It felt haunted as hell, and nobody really knows why. One morning, I was in the middle of eating breakfast at my counter when I heard the carousel's sharp music echoing through the massive food court. To set the scene, the food court has this little play area for kids on the opposite side from where I work. It's got all these kiddie rides that light up and play music, and they're all motion activated so that they can light up when people walk by. Normally, I wouldn't give the sound a second thought, but I knew for a fact that there wasn't supposed to be anybody else in the mall at this hour, and there's no way in hell that I could have activated the ride sensor. As a person who regularly listened to scary stories while at work, I was immediately intrigued and anxious to see what might have happened. I turned on the oven and shut off the lights to every area but my workstation in order to tune in to the other end of the dark food court. It was nearly pitch black beyond the dim lights above my workstation, but I could see that the only thing out of place was that carousel, which was now spinning just enough for its creaking and scraping to find a rhythm. It wasn't until a second ride activated that I saw what had really set it off. Illuminated by the headlights of one of the race car rides, it was clear that there was something standing behind the carousel, something that was now facing my direction. The very defined silhouette of a security guard leaned around the central pillar of the ride. I had been standing and leaning around the corner of a doorway, essentially mirroring it, trying to keep hidden enough to watch uninterrupted. I did that until I started to feel uncomfortable with what I was looking at. If they're an actual security guard, why aren't they doing their rounds like they do during the day? Why were they trying to sneak around in the first place? I kept my eyes glued on the opposite end of the food court as I texted one of the security guards I knew. They confirmed my suspicions. I was the only person scheduled to be in the mall. I glanced down at my phone to reread the text. The moment I felt my gaze drop, I stopped myself, but it was already too late. There was now something standing about 5 feet away from our counter, right along the edge of my field of view. Fun fact about the counter of our shop: it isn't tall. I, standing at 6'4", could essentially step over it, and my comically short sister, who worked the day shift, told me that she sometimes just leapt over the counter after closing up shop. I was now essentially standing in an island with only one route of escape if this creep decided to jump the counter. I took the opportunity while I had it and left the shop. However, it didn't end there. My car was parked pretty far away, so I instead decided to run along the long service hall towards our stockroom. It was the only other door in the mall I could lock and unlock, so I went in and pushed my back against the door behind me. Feeling better behind a locked door, I sat there watching YouTube under the blindingly bright lights on the ceiling. I felt secure and safe in that room for a few minutes, right up until I heard footsteps coming slowly down the hallway. They were slow and light, like a kid tiptoeing down their stairs on Christmas morning. It was almost playful. I held my breath and waited for the footsteps to pass by my door. It was like they stopped just before it and started to walk in place, as if they knew where I was, but couldn't get to me. It was then that I heard these clicking and flickering sounds, some mix between the sound of keys jingling and lights popping on and off. Whoever was outside that door was just having their fun scaring me. I'm sure a lot of people have had a nightmare where they were running away from a threat that always knew exactly where they were. It felt like that, but I knew that this was real. Luckily, I also knew that I was safe, and at one point or another, I realized that the footsteps had gone. It wasn't until later that I realized I never had to reopen the deadbolt to exit that stockroom. It was already unlocked. I work part-time for my university's IT department. I manage the public computer sites, fix machines when they're broken, handle scheduling of the other consultants, etc. I'm mostly on call all the time, and during the summer weekend, there is not much to do except get paid. The campus library is across the hall from my office. Normally, it's open, even on weekends, but it was closed for the intersession this weekend before the new semester begins. Lights off, doors locked. There's no way to get in unless you have swipe card access, which I do. There are also computers in there. So I'm in my office, passing time on the internet, when I hear a bit of a racket. I peek out my door, and there's a bigger man outside, tugging on the doors and trying to rip them open. He noticed me come out and asks, or more like yells to me, "When does this place open?" I pointed to the hours sign and explained it would be open on Monday when classes begin. He walks away and seems unsatisfied with that answer. More time passes, and out of boredom, I decide I'm going to go check out the library. I've only been in there once before when it was closed. I swipe my card and go in. It's really creepy in there when it's closed. I wasn't supposed to be in there. If I got caught, I'd probably be in a small amount of trouble, since I really didn't have permission or a reason for being in another department's area during closed hours. All the lights are off, with the only light coming in through the windows in the distance. The place is huge, and you can hear ventilation fans clicking on and off. As I creep past the rows and aisles, the locked door study cubicles creak and make noises occasionally, as if someone were inside them. This is often true. Students are known to hide in there after library closes to study in a quiet setting, or to have sex in them. Yeah, gross. But the library has been closed for almost 24 hours at this point, and no one likely camped out in there. It's just noises. Still, as I walk alone in this place, it feels like I'm not alone. I go to the lounge area and sit, but I feel uncomfortable with the dark silence and soon get up. So I walk to the bathroom, and as I walk in, I notice there's someone in the stall. All I can see is one foot at first glance from underneath the door. One naked foot, no shoes or socks, in a public restroom. One naked, bloody foot. There's a small pool of blood on the floor in the stall, and small trickles of blood on the foot. I froze for a small moment and tightened up. I was startled at first, because I hadn't expected to find anyone else in here. Second, a bloody foot, of all the things. I didn't see any sort of socks or shoes around. No pants around the ankles, nothing like that. I didn't even see a second foot. A pale, cold white foot. Large, too. The stall door is partially open, but not enough that I could see inside from my angle. I say with a shaken voice, "Hello?" No response. Nothing happens. I wonder if there's even a body attached to that foot. I wonder if there's a dead body inside. I wonder if some kid is killing himself here. I ask, "What are you doing, man?" Then the toes slowly curl up, flex, then relax. I promptly turned right out the door and walked out of the library quickly. I got back into my office as I tried to make sense of what I just saw. Should I call campus police? I really just didn't want to get involved with dealing with paperwork and questions with the police. I justified that I wasn't supposed to be over there anyway, and would have to lie about some reason of why I was. So I called my friend Andy instead. I just wanted to talk to someone about what I had seen. I felt queasy. Andy and I talk for a good 40 minutes, mostly talking about how messed up it was, and no startling discoveries in the meantime. I heavily considered calling police, but so much time had passed, I assumed the person would be long gone. The man with the bloody foot also certainly thought he was alone, so he would have been startled by my appearance too. I decide I'm going to go back and stay on the phone with Andy. I knew how stupid this was. If someone is hurting themselves, they may not care if they hurt me either. They're probably very unstable, and they have some sort of knife or blade. I'm not in any mood to get in a knife fight here during my shift, but I want to go check the bathroom again. As I walk through the library, it's worse this time, because now I'm not alone. There's someone else here, possibly with a weapon. I softly walk to the bathroom and listen outside the door. I don't hear any sound, but I get the chills. Andy is on speakerphone, but is staying silent. I go inside and look under the stall. The foot is still there, still cold and pale looking. There's more blood than before. The door is now shut to the stall, the only other change in the last 40 minutes. I was really hoping not to see anyone in there this time. I do not want to anger a possibly suicidal person. I ask, "Are you all right?" No response. No motion. Only blood. It makes me feel sick. I repeat, "Are you okay in there? Do you need me to call for help?" Slowly, the foot turns and points to me. A second foot steps down alongside it, also with blood smeared all over it. Whatever is inside the stall is now standing and facing me, with the wall between us. I can't see the top of any head. My heart starts racing. Finally, a deep voice responds, "I am fine." That was good enough an answer for me. I promptly turn and leave. This time, I run. I had told myself before going in that if he was still there, I'd definitely call the police. I still didn't. He said he was fine. I wanted to put this out of my head and forget it. I lock the door to my office and do nothing for the last 30 minutes or so of my shift. When I step out into the hallway, there are bloody footprints walking out of the library and over to my office door. Plenty of them outside the door. It was pacing and standing there for a while. Small drips of blood led away from my door and stopped after a small distance. I was horrified. I hurried to my truck, ready to get out of there, but then I paused for a moment and realized, with the amount of blood outside my office door and in that hallway, I can't just leave. I'll probably be asked about it anyway. I should call it in. I head back up. All the footprints are mostly gone. All the damn bloody footprints and drops are wiped away. There are small smears here and there. It wasn't a perfect cleaning job. I was only gone at my truck for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Whatever it is, it's still here, hanging around, watching me, cleaning up after itself too. I am very frightened. I go back to my truck. There are bloody towels on my door handle, on the ground, on the hood of my truck. I hurry right over to campus police. I decide to just tell them the whole story. And I did. I told all, even the fact that I was also trespassing and that I went back for a second visit instead of calling police first. They took pictures of my car and told me they'd look into it. They returned to the library but requested that I do not accompany them back inside. This was 2 days ago now, and I have not heard anything since. I work again tonight.